Hello, this is Thomas Sheltra for Module 8, Unit 6, Activity 1, Assessments and Data-Driven Instruction. I know, I look a little different. Went in for a haircut. What do you know? So when I look at my data, I've been keeping data for my students all year. However, based on the kind of stuff we're doing for the clinical work, kind of like my reflection piece on this is that I don't, I guess I really don't like data strictly for the fact that each class and each collection of data is merely a snapshot of that class. And so, yes, when you collect it, obviously if a student is doing poorly, you can see those trends. But I've noticed that students in my class during the clinical have kind of ebbed and flowed. There's been areas where students have done well, then the next week they don't do so well, and then the next week after that they've picked it up a little bit. The one thing I've noticed as something that is trending is with the vocabulary, and stuff that I have to do is to incorporate more vocabulary into the activities that we're doing in class instead of leaving it for students to do on their own. And that goes for low performing students and high achieving students as well. I think the two people who have commented on my discussion forum post, Bo and Rahel, I think they brought up very similar kind of ideas, but in different ways. One is, Bo talking about how qualitative is way more important than quantitative, and that teachers know students best. And I think that's absolutely 100% true. I've noticed in my experience that anytime I've had, instructors or administrators come into my room for like 5-6 minutes, and then they just kind of leave, they're just getting a snapshot of what a 5-minute part of my class looks like in a 60-minute class. And so, how do you make assumptions of an instructor's work or students in class, their behavior, when you're just getting a glimpse instead of the entire picture? And then I think Rahel did, I really liked her feedback where she was talking about, modeling problems for students, trying to inspire them, doing quick checks, and really focusing on the social and emotional part of learning. And I think that, that is something that is extremely important, but it's not something that we track in data. So, so for instance, I've noticed that if students don't do well in a certain class, maybe they have outside influences that are kind of impacting their performance in class. And so I think that, it's one of those things where you have to balance students who are struggling academically for academic reasons, and then students who are struggling because of things outside of the classroom that are impacting their ability to focus on the content and focus on the activities and some of the assessments that we're trying to get to help students. So I like data for the aspect that it is keeping a record and hopefully painting a picture for students, but I don't think that it really focuses or tells a story of the kind of ancillary things that are happening in a student's life, or how that's impacting their academics, or for that matter, when people outside of my classroom look at data to try and assess where students are. Again, they're basing that off of numbers and not what they're seeing in the classroom. And so I think it's kind of, a double-edged sword, but I like the kind of a balancing act. because you can see trends with some students based on the numbers, but again, I don't think it paints the whole picture. So I think moving forward, at least for me with the data, is the assessments are fine, but the vocabulary that I'm trying to get the students to do to enhance their understanding the content, building on their literacy skills, is going to have to be done with the activities in class and not just left on the students' own. So, I'm excited to see where the next two sets of data take me. I've been keeping track in between those times, and I've noticed that when students are engaged and they're hands-on, they do an excellent job. When students are left to work on their vocabulary on their own, this is for low-performing students and high-achieving students. I've noticed that there's kind of sort of a, I really hate to use this term, but kind of a lazy attitude that, this is something that we're doing on our own, then this is something that we can wait until the last minute. But when it's something that we're doing in class and they're hands-on and they're working in groups, they get it done and they do an outstanding job, and I'm really proud of them for that. So I'm very excited to see what the next couple of weeks and the rest of the month into the end of the clinical, what that data will flesh out with the students, and maybe see if my opinions change on that. But as far as I'm concerned, data is just one part, but it doesn't tell the whole story. So thank you.